It's not open to interpretation any longer. Jesus is actually making a far more profound statement than we may realize here. He is declaring to them that their love for one another will become the witness to the world. By this, all will know that you are my disciples. That people will watch them love one another. They will be dumbfounded by it. And they will say to themselves, they must be followers of Jesus. That's how ridiculous love is. They're going to look at you loving one another, and that alone is going to proclaim how good I am and what a miracle-working God I am. It's humanly impossible. There obviously must be something deeper going on. And that this will become the greatest form of evangelism, Jesus is saying, because it's going to point them right to me. It's not going to point them to you. It's not going to point them to your nice building or to your sign or to your ministry. It's going to point them to me. They're going to see your love for one another, and they're going to have no explanation except the fact that Jesus is a miracle-working God. One author said, as long as Christian love is in the world is still encountering Jesus. The presence of the love of Jesus on earth is the goal of the new command. And it was the love of the disciples for one another, he is saying, that will begin to attract people to me. Now, as simple as this command appears to be, it is actually the most complicated command to follow. D.A. Carson said the new command is simple enough for a toddler to memorize and appreciate, and yet profound enough that the most mature believers are repeatedly embarrassed at how poorly they comprehended and put it into practice. Jesus is declaring that the distinguishing mark of a Jesus disciple will be our love for one another. This is at the heart of my discipleship from now until forever. There is one mark. There is one quality, and though this quality will manifest itself in many different ways, this is the heart. This is the main thing. This is how my disciples will express and prove their allegiance to me. This is what I want you to pursue as my disciples. This is what I want you to impress upon other people in the realm of discipleship. You may not get everything right. You might act like fools from time to time, but if you get this right, then you're going to be all right. You know, the Apostle Paul, we like to refer to John as the Apostle of Love, but you should just study love for a while, and you're going to find out the Apostle Paul had a lot to say about love. And in Ephesians chapter 3, Paul, understanding discipleship probably better than most of us, he's writing to the church at Ephesus. He writes this incredible prayer over this church. And listen to the drive of this prayer. I pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. You will not be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God until you know his love. And he's not speaking about just knowing it casually. He's not talking to us about just winking and nodding and every once in a while mentioning love. He's talking about the width of love and the depth of love and how long it is and how deep it is. And he's saying this is the starting point. You have to be rooted in it. You have to be grounded in it. It's going to bring power so that you can know it even more. That the purpose of the power is that you know it even more, that you know the love deeper and more profoundly than you ever have before. Love is the alpha and omega of all that we are becoming and all that we do. This is the key to making Jesus disciples, is teaching them to love God and one another. So what happens when we are not Jesus disciples? What happens to an individual when he's not a Jesus disciple? What happens to a church when we're not functioning as Jesus' disciples, what happens to